And you are good to go, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here. Today is Tuesday, December 8th, 2020, and the time is 7 p.m. And I'd like to call to order the 2065th meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Bobbitt.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Nyhagen.
Present.
Councilmember Selby.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman.
Present.
Councilmember Trope.
Present.
And Mayor Hernandez, we do have a quorum. We also have City Attorney Ree Colwell, Finance Director Brian Carlton, and Deputy Finance Director Desiree Cinnamon, Police Chief Troy Tamaris, Community Development Director John Rickard, HR Manager Sean Doring, myself, City Clerk, and Deputy Clerk Carolyn Holm. We are good to go.
Right, and we have a quorum.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a full house today. So will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
I hope you all heard that. It was a little on the quiet side. All right, so next, we have a moment of sight. Actually, it's not gonna do moment of silence. We're gonna have Council Member Nyhagen start us off for this meeting with a few words.
Let's bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we're so thankful that we can come and do the business of the city. Please bless the direction we take, that it will be according to your will. I thank you for each one of these council members, Lord, and I thank you for College Place. And at this time of the year, Lord, when so much going on, I pray for those that are victims of this virus. Please be with them and bless them tonight. And thank you for all that you do, Lord. And we're so thankful that Jesus was born. Thank you. In his name I ask. Amen. And I want to say it's nice to have candy. We have some cinnamon here with us, don't we?
Now, isn't that sweet? Okay, it is now time for public comment, and I understand that there's a number of people who have made arrangements to speak. So I'd like to remind everyone that this is not a question and answer session. It's a time for the speakers to make their statement about a subject that is under control of the council. Speaking order will be determined by a random draw, and a timer will be visible on the screen. Each person will have 5 minutes to make their statement. When there's 1 minute remaining, the clerk will announce give the verbal cue to start wrapping up your statement. And the clerk will announce the speaker and allow them to speak. Thank you. Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just checking. It looks like 6 people had made arrangements, but it looks like only 5 of them are present. Of those 5 present, if a Diana Barnett is with one of you, will you raise your hand, please? I'm not seeing any hands raised, so we're going to take her off of the list here.
Yes, thank you.
And what we've got here is a random name picker, and we're going to use it to select the speaking order from these people here. So I will go and you're the winner, but that's kind of what we have to work with here.
You're breaking up.
Can't hear it.
Lisa.
Okay, so Michael Leisure is going to be first.
Lisa, you're kind of coming in and out. You're breaking up.
Mm.
Are you ready for Mr. Leisure?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Leisure, you have the floor. You are still on mute. Okay, he's still on mute. Lisa, are you able to help him get unmute?
So, Mr. Leisure, if you're on the phone, to unmute, you need to press *9.
There he goes.
All right. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Mike Leisure. I've been a local resident here on DCO Road since 2001. I've been a local business owner for over 20 years. There was some images that were supplied. If we can go to the third image, that would be helpful. Some of the concerns that were brought up at the time of the installation of Whitman being discussed were because of the recent addition to the area of Home Depot. And the proposal to make DCO a through street, okay, rather than a dead end. At that time, the following solutions were proposed. One was to leave DCO Road a dead end at the south. The second was to make DCO at the south end a cul-de-sac. The third was to install a chain across one end of DCO. And the option that was chosen, the fourth option, was to connect DCO to Whitman, narrowing the roadway by reducing travel way width and adding sidewalks on the west side. From the previous images, you can see that there were sidewalks on the east side before DCO was connected to Whitman. Okay, this enabled the city to miss a newly installed water distribution box and a Pacific Power transformer, and alleviated the need for a retaining wall on my property located at 275 Northeast DC. As an added benefit, this reduced the flow and speed of the new traffic pattern caused by Home Depot. This solution has worked for over 10 years and has reduced the amount of traffic flow. It has reduced the speed of the traffic flow and therefore has increased the safety of all residents of DCO Road. And that was one of the major concerns when they connected DCO to Whitman. The present configuration of DCO Road, seen in image 3, the green lines represent the current parking availability. Currently, there are 11 to 13 parking spaces available in the area affected by the resolution that was passed. Narrowing of DCO Road was brought on the city by the city to circumvent physical and monetary obstacles. It has been said in multiple meetings by multiple members of the city government that this is a design flaw, okay? In the UTAC meeting, it was mentioned a couple times. In the council meeting reviewing that from the 24th, it was also brought up that it was possibly a design flaw. I feel the need to delay the installation of the no parking signs and enforcement of the resolution until after the holidays and 30 days following the Utilities and Transportation Committee meeting in February, so that we have ample time to collect pertinent information and seek counsel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Leisure. Okay, next selection, please.
Kimberly Toomey.
All right, Ms. Toomey, the floor is yours. And you are still on mute? Oh,
Hi.
there you are. Now we can see you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. So my only concern really with the parking on DCO is of a safety standpoint. When you've got semi trucks and large trailers, plus personal vehicles on both sides, it really does get very, very narrow. So that's really my main concern, is just from a safety standpoint. And if there's a better solution, I'm all for that, as long as there is a solution. It's just, if you don't drive a Mini Cooper, it's a pretty tight squeeze. So that's all really I have to say, is it's just the safety concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Jonna Starcher.
Okay, Ms. Starcher, the floor is yours. Oh, she's connecting to audio, it looks like. So let's give her a minute. Ms. Starcher, are you there? If you are, we cannot hear you. There you are. We can see you. We can't hear you. No. I don't think you have
You're
audio.
on your cell phone, press *9 to unmute.
Do you have a speaker on your computer? Oh, it looks like she's hard of hearing. Were you going to have a translator? I'm so sorry, we can't understand you.
If you're on a cell phone, if you press what, Carolyn, say again?
Well,
If you're
It's
on a smartphone,
*9.
*9.
Yeah.
she's doing sign language.
I was not informed that there were any handicap requirements necessary.
Okay.
I do not have an interpreter.
Yeah, we do not have an interpreter present.
This is Councilmember Cleveland. If she is deaf or hard of hearing, we could allot her the 5 minutes, and the video of our meeting here could then be interpreted later and provided to us. Or alternatively, Jonna could submit in writing a statement that she'd like us to read.
Hang on just a second. Mr. Leisure, did you have something to say that could help?
Yeah, she's right here. She's on her iPad and we can't figure out how to unmute it. She could come over and go on my laptop just like I am now if you'd like.
We can certainly do that, absolutely.
All right, we'll just change chairs and go that route then.
Okay. Carolyn, do you want to promote Mr. Leisure's to a panelist?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Leisure's phone is on mute. It does need to be unmuted.
That is *9 to unmute.
There you go.
There you are.
All right, perfect.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I am hard of hearing, but I also interpret. So
Okay.
I use sign language too. So sorry about that. Okay. So are we ready?
We are ready. The floor is yours.
Okay. My name is Jonna Starcher. I live at 275 Northeast DCO. I am here tonight. I appreciate you having us. I'd like to address a couple complaints that Kimberly Toomey had suggested or spoke of concerning parking and the bus stop. The parking issue was not an issue until, I don't know, the last couple of years. We own construction business, we own, we have a trucking business, we work from our home. We've had this business Michael's had this business for 20 years. As far as the parking, I can't help with that. There have been multiple instances on record where the city officials have stated that the south end of DCO has a design flaw. That started 20 years ago. While I understand Mrs. Toomey's concern, I'm perplexed as to why parking would be a problem for her because she lives 3 houses north of us. She has her own parking in front of her own rental. As far as the bus stop issue, they moved the bus stop to DCO and Whitman for safety issues for our children to catch the bus safely. There was an ice storm 2 years ago. The bus stop used to be on DCO, and being that there is a hill on DCO, it was not safe for the buses with the ice. 2 years ago, they chose to move it to DCO and Whitman. This is from the gal that is from the College Place School District. She's the director of transportation. Her name's Carmen Gherking. She says they will not be changing the bus stop from now on. They feel that that's the safest place for them. With all of this in mind, the parking, the trucks and whatnot that we have on our road, yes, it gets tight, but we have not heard any complaints concerning any fire trucks, any ambulances, any type of vehicles that cannot get by. Just today, we had our garbage picked up. He was able to get by just fine. And there are vehicles on both sides of the road. So my opinion, my request is that we postpone the putting in the no parking signs and enforcing them until after the holidays and 30 days after the utility and transportation meeting in February. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right.
Okay. I just want to ask Miss Capping something. She's got her hand raised. Miss Capping, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I wanted to mention that Diana Barnett is with me. And I
Okay,
was wondering if there was a possibility for her name to be added back onto our agenda today.
I will do that. Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Lisa, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Can you make sure that I'm part of the administration side so I can see if hands are being raised?
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Fine, thank you.
Let me get a name being picked here. And I will. Okay, and winner, Diana Barnett. So she will be with,
Just on time.
yes, she will be with Miss Capping. So,
Okay, well, if you're ready, the floor is yours. But we can't hear you, so if you're there, we can't hear you right now. It looks like Ms. Cappings is still on mute.
Hi, I'm sorry. Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
So I believe Diana Barnett is up next.
Oh, yes, Diana.
Hi, my name is Diane Barnett, and I live at 268 Northeast DCO Road. I have been living there for 20 years or so, and I live right there on the corner of DCO. And my significant other has his truck parked out on the street because, again, we're only allowed so many parking spaces in our condominium area. And here, this whole situation was brought to my attention not that long ago. We were not aware of the hearings that was addressed back, 2 hearings or 2 committees that you guys had, and we were not notified at all so we could attend the meetings as well. Until now, we were just being informed. So that's why I am complaining about, taking away these parking spaces from us. We will not have anybody that lives there or have people that come to visit us have no parking space. And if that's the case, then we're going to, our people and our residents and the renters are going to have to move their parking spaces up to where Miss Toomey is living, and that's going to block their area as well. And then they're going to not have any parking space at all. And then the whole thing is that I've been here before the whole Whitman Street came involved, and we had, when Mr. Leisure was indicating that exactly that they had options and everything else like that, and they kept the road the way it was due to safety, because so we don't have to have a lot of people dragging down the street. We do have people dragging down the street on Whitman Street, but coming around that corner for the safety of the kids and everything else. That's why they kept it narrow. And again, I want to emphasize that we've never had any police officers, police cars, ambulance, fire trucks, other utility vehicles come through, had no problems coming through at all. So I am not aware of what's going on in regards, and I'm the one that lives right there on that corner. And so, I just don't understand why we were not notified. And then here now, you guys are putting this, telling us, and we cannot be able to park on our streets and putting these signs up. This does not give us enough time to be able to fight this, permanently, to leave it as the way it is. As as a resident of the DCO Townhouse Association and living there and residing there, I think that's uncalled for, my personal opinion on here. And I think that we should be able to, again, table this until we get more documents put together for you guys. And also, if we have to seek legal counsel, then we will do so. And that's what I have to say about that whole thing.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see who's up next.
Convenient.
Yes. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. We can
Okay.
hear you whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Stephanie Caping. My address is at Northeast DC, 262 Northeast DCO Road. I'm part of the DCO Place Association, and I'm also a current board member and have lived at this location for over 16 years. My concern with this memorandum of blocking parking is that it is very narrow at the street. That has happened at this end of our road when it was rebuilt, when Whitman went through, and it has always been that way. We have not had any problems, as other of our members have stated, that this would greatly reduce our parking situation. It also has been discouraging that there were 2 meetings met in November and also November 24th, that this was passed without any consultation with the residents of this end of the street at all. And that we actually found out by accident when city members were out here actually measuring for the signs. That is the first time we were hearing about that. I'm also greatly concerned that with the lack of parking and our situation in the homeowners association, that our property values on this end of the street will greatly decrease because no one can be parking on the street. I personally never witnessed any problem with emergency vehicles getting through, UPS trucks getting through, FedEx getting through, any kind of utility service trucks. We have yard care, we have maintenance care that need to have parking on the street in order to service our properties. So this is why I believe that I ask greatly tonight that this resolution be tabled until after 30 days after following the Utilities and Transportation Committee meeting in February, and that will give us time to create documents and also seek legal counsel. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do we have one more, Lisa?
Yes, there is one more. I guess there's no need to go through the picking. Ms. Larson, Nicole Larson is next.
All right, Ms. Larson, are you there? Okay, I see you popped up, but you're on mute.
There we go.
There you are.
All right, great. Thank you first all for having us and allowing each of the invitees to your meeting. I appreciate that very much. My name's Nicole Larson. I live at 270 Northeast DCO Road. I'm a proud homeowner, have been here going on 8 years, and am currently president of DCO Town Home Association. There are 10 residences in our community, and only 3 driveways to accommodate the 10 residences. So space is at a premium as it is. And I see that our side of the street is most heavily impacted by this resolution. It came as a shock to all of us. We weren't aware until word of mouth, as a matter of fact, just a couple days ago. So we're trying to wrap our brains around this. And we take great pride in home ownership. Each of us, I've come to know my neighbors across the street, next door to me, within our community. We all get along very well, and it's a nice, quiet neighborhood and a wonderful place to live. We value safety and security, and that's been my experience living here all this time now. I'd like to do everything possible to maintain that. I've not seen any challenges with the parking as it was. I do see many challenges if these changes are made. With regard to safety and security, I think it would open up more of an opportunity for DCO Road to be utilized by people who don't live on this street, utilize our quaint little, I mean, it's a very small road, as you well know. It would probably be more likely used as a through street. That's my guess. I think that's a fair guess. So back to our association, there are 10 units, and each of the units are 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. They're large homes. They may appear small, but they are all, each of the homeowners is 50+ years of age, contributes to the community, and again, values safety and security. So I feel that this may impact our livelihood and standard of living. You know, we're holding down the fort. Many of on both sides of the street, on this end of the street, you know, we're the solid ones, in my opinion. So I hope that you'll take our comments into consideration, and thanks again for the opportunity. We take care, it may already be known, forgive me for stating the obvious, but we at DCO Townhomes, we have 2 sections that are, for years now, as long as I've lived here, painted as no parking zones. One is the fire hydrant area in between 2 of the driveways. And the second is the mailbox area on the other side of the other driveway. So that in and of itself takes away, you know, at least 2 spots. And we maintain that by painting the curb and the fire hydrant, as well as maintaining the shrubs near any of that. And one thing that stuck out in my mind,
Please wrap up.
Thank you. One of the members earlier said about the vehicles that come to maintain our property on a regular basis, every year, annually, without fail. They need a place to park their vehicles to provide the services that they provide. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Larson. Thank you for being here. Okay, is that the last one, Lisa?
It is, yes.
Okay. Then are we ready to move on to the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so moving on to item number 2, the consent agenda, which consists of approving agenda for today, December 8th, 2020. Approve the council minutes from November 24th, 2020's meeting. Approve council minutes from December 1st, 2020 workshop. The Emergency Medical Service Data Submission Agreement. The International Association of Firefighters fiscal year 2021 to 2023 contract. And the grant agreement and consultant selection for the Poor Farm Cemetery project. Are there any items that the council would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
None.
Okay, see none, is there a motion?
Councilwoman Nyhagan, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Great, thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Selby, second.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the motion is passed. Okay. There are no presentations today, so we're going to move on to public hearings. So we do have a public meeting scheduled tonight on the fiscal year 2021 budget, final budget. And Mr. Carlton, excuse me, is going to present.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll bring up my presentation.
I think we all might know it by memory by now.
I hope so. All right, here we go. This is the fourth and final, hopefully final iteration of the 2021 budget. I'll guide you through the slides, and the first slide I brought up is any changes we made since last week. Minor change to the interfund transfer between the water utility and the capital account for 100,000. That has zero effect on the utility and on the ending fund balance. Because the water project for well number 2 was pushed to 2021, that reduced the debt payment in 2021. So that is a positive 34,000. And when we were reviewing the payments out for projects, we noticed on well project, although it is nearly complete, there will be some retention payment next year that we originally didn't have in the budget. So that's the 100,000. So the net result is we brought down the budget by just over $65,000. So this is where we stand right now. Beginning fund balance is anticipated at just over $16 million. Revenues at just over 30 million, same as expenditures. A slight deficit results in $179,000 for next year. Here are the fund balances, and we've gone through these a few times. Again, we note that a majority of our deficit, this relates to 2 major projects. One is under Fund 306, which is Lions Park work next year, which we have $500,000 of reserve funding that has been accumulated in the REIT funds for the last few years. Also, we have our wastewater Southwest Sewer Trunkline project going next year, and that's under the Fund 411, which is our wastewater capital reserve fund. And that we have just over 500,000 of committed reserves. We are required to commit to the project by USDA. So the net result, if you took those 2 projects out, we definitely have a surplus for the year, but the net result is we do have a small drawdown in total fund balance. Again, here's our reserve policy. Nothing's changed since the last, except I can't see the column because. So we do have, again, we've discussed our emergency reserve fund 005. We haven't been accumulating money in that account. Our target is 10% of budgeted revenue. We do fall short of that, but we are slowly building that up. And given that we're in COVID year and anticipating going into COVID again through part of next year, is we are putting money into that account and not drawing out. Secondary one, which we are not making our target, is our facilities maintenance reserve, which the target is 300,000. So again, that's a target, and we will be moving towards that. We have a lot of spending, not a lot, but a fair bit of spending in our facilities maintenance next year, and also in the equipment rental. Here is our staffing budget for next year. We don't show any, technically a 1-person reduction in FTEs next year. That's related to replacement of Robert Gordon. No budgeted additions next year. We have 1 budgeted part-time reserve police officer and 1 part-time work study. And of course, our mayor and 7 council members. So no material changes there. These are the projected wage increases for next year. You can see police is at 6%. I believe fire should also be at 6%. That is negotiated. The public works people are getting $109 per month. It's part of a year 3 of a 3-year contract. Our non-union exempt employees are getting a small increase of 1%, as well as the non-union non-exempt, except our sergeants who are 6% per contract. Small increase in medical costs next year, 1.5% for police. Regents medical is going up 4% and no increase in dental or vision. Here are the sheets I showed you last week, really identifying where we're at on our operating capital and debt spending. And I did it on the major funds. That includes the current expense, our utilities, and the REIT funds. As you can see here, our operating revenue and expenditures for 2021, we do show a surplus for our operating. We do have capital in there of 140,000. That is capital expenditures in nature. Technically, it's in recurring because we do tend to have recurring expenditures for capital, and you could put it in non-recurring, but I made the decision to show it in the recurring. So overall, we show a surplus in the current expense of just over $26,000. Here is the street funds. There's 3 funds involved there. There's the operating fund, a capital fund, and a debt fund. Currently, we do not have any debt under the street count. You can see that we are operating at a surplus for the operating side of the business, but we are having some capital expenditures next year, which resulting in that total deficit of $167,000 for the utility. This is the water funds. A lot of funds involved there. Capital projects, one's required to be separated based on state requirements, a couple debt funds. As you can see there, we do have a small surplus for anticipated for 2021 for the water utility. You can see our debt amount is currently showing at a deficit for the year. We'll have to look at that in the next few years. What's been put in there is based on what's in the utility rate model, which shows that should improve over time, but anticipated next year there will be a deficit under the debt portion. You can also see our reoccurring non-recurring capital amounts, which include the number of different projects, and I'll go through some of those projects a little bit later in the presentation. Here's our wastewater funds. Again, we have an operating fund, a capital fund, and a debt fund. You can see again on our operating side, we're doing quite well, operating at a $374,000 surplus. We do have I do have the capital portion, which is reoccurring. That tends to be the amount we spend each year. We do have our recurring debt amount. Our big amount next year is going to be our funding of the Southwest Sewer Project. And you can see that has a significant impact on the fund balance. Overall, though, for the whole utility, we're still operating in a surplus of $53,000. And as I might mention, out of that non-recurring for Southwest Sewer Project, excuse me, that is the portion of the, I think it's $540,000 we have to pay out of our own reserves. So that explains a large majority of that deficit next year. The Stormwater Fund, again, we have we only have 2 funds for that utility, and you can see we're doing quite well there with a a $248,000 operating surplus, not much in recurring capital, and some debt payments. And we have our capital is fully funded. Some of that, if you are curious of why we're showing a surplus on our non-recurring capital, is that because part of the utility rate model has us transfer a certain amount of money from the operating account into the capital account to fund the current projects and future projects. And here's our REIT fund. That has a total deficit of $396,000. As we have discussed numerous times, that's was completely anticipated as we were growing reserves in that fund to pay for the Lions Park remodel next year. So here's a breakdown of the proposed revenues. I won't go into huge detail on this. This is the same slide we've been showing for the last 3 presentations. Just gives you an idea on where we are at on our sources of revenue. Charges for goods and services and the loan proceeds contribute a large amount of cash into the city. Little summary of, you've seen this screen before. I won't go into too much detail unless you have some significant questions. One place to note of a considerable increase is our permits and licenses for next year. That's the anticipated projects that are going to go for construction, down this year because of COVID, but more up to prior year levels. John is, he's comfortable with the numbers that we put in there. The other one is our loan proceeds has gone down. That's strictly related to the projects we have going, and the budget for 2020, of course, included the $11 million, included the Southwest Sewer that was supposed to go this year. So overall, we're showing a slight increase in slight increase over our forecast this year in revenues next year. Hopefully COVID subsides and we can get back to normal business. But luckily this year we've not been, you know, our retail sales tax has not been materially impacted. As a matter of fact, based on the forecast, we're anticipating being over our budget for retail sales tax, and our property tax seems to be flowing in as expected. So people are continuing to pay their property taxes. If there's any questions, just jump in. Here is a screen that's showing our proposed expenditure. And of course, the big impact is the $8.5 million we're budgeting for the Southwest Sewer project. That's the big impact next year. And our other utility projects add in there, and the current expense, which of course, you know, is police, fire, administration. I decided to throw in here just a summary of the capital projects. I'll go through here quickly. This is, sorry. Was there a question? No. You approved this as part of the CFP projects the last council meeting, but I just thought I'd put it in here just to give you a bit of a follow-up of where we're at in the capital. All these items are included in the budget along with their appropriate funding mechanism. So again, the big Southwest Sewer projects in there, and the parks, the Lions Park project, which account for a large majority of the spending on projects next year. Just a bit of the highlights on the amounts by department. Again, there's the $2 million anticipated for Lions Park. Stormwater, 309,000. Streets, a lot of spending next year, 1.6 million. That directly impacts why we're showing a deficit in that fund for next year. Wastewater, you see the amount there for the Southwest Sewer Trunk Line and Lift Station. And as you recall, in the CFP, due to some requirements by the state on the well project, the well replacement number 2 or 6, depending on where you started in the project, it's getting delayed till 2022. So a little bit of spending next year, but majority of it will go in 2022. Just a brief summary of where we're at on our equipment repair and replacement. Again, there's a little summary of where we're at. We are replacing the grader in the public works at 160,000, and we are in our contract with Jacobs on the wastewater treatment plant. That started this year and will continue next year. That totals 191,000 for the year. Here's our IT budget for next year. We've done really well with the CARES Money Act to allow us to do some laptop replacements for people working remotely and other things to allow more remote working. So that's been great and allowed us to get up to speed on where we're at on our hardware spending. And as I think Mike mentioned in the last meeting, that some of these projects were identified in the spending plans that they were going to be delayed until the second half of the year to ensure that, depending on the impacts of COVID and where we're at on spending, we're able to either delay or push those projects out. And a big component of our IT budget is our software, the maintenance fees on our software.
Mr. Carlton, Councilmember Peterson has a question for you.
Sure. Brian, could you go back? I'm sorry, maybe it's already getting late here. Could you go back to the last pie graph? Am I missing
this one?
Well, yeah. So the one previous, what am I?
No, the one previous?
No, this one. The percentages are not agreeing with, what am I missing here?
No, that's my fault. I updated this today and didn't update the percentages on the pie chart. You're correct, Lauren.
Oh, no, I thought
percentages in the table are correct.
Okay, no, that's fine. The one before was correct, and the one before, and I thought it was just the late hour in my advanced years. So no, thank you, I appreciate that.
No, this is the only one that changed today based on the capital ordinances that were passed.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the schedule you see on the left has the correct numbers in it.
Okay, thank you. That minor thing, thanks.
You should pat yourself on the back because you caught it.
Yes.
So the late hour and your advanced years aren't affecting you in any way.
I can't say the same.
Well, the truth being said, I throw this on Dayshree at the last minute. I thought, well, this will be valuable to add into the presentation. So
and then Lauren,
can blame
Lauren
it on
shows
me.
up. Thanks, Brian.
I won't go into details, but here's your all our funding sources to pay for those projects, and the big two are Lions Park and the Southwest Sewer Trunk Line. Of course, we're getting the $3.2 million USDA grant next year, which is great, and we're also getting a 50% RCO grant for Lions Park. So that's great work by Mike and the whole group of going after all these funding sources and grants. Here's a little tidbit that I know is anticipated. So here's our leverage position. It's a little tough for us to calculate a leverage position because we don't have a balance sheet. As being a cash basis city, everything's on cash. I do track the liabilities because we have to report it at the end of the year for state purposes. So I kind of have liabilities, just basically our long-term debt. And then we use our ending cash balance as our equity. So the money that we have built up in the city to account for it. And you can see our leverage position since 2016, we were at 1.63. The rule of thumb is anything below 2 is okay. A good ratio is from 1 to 1.5. So you can see that although our leverage has gone on down a little bit, you know, we've been doing all these projects and whatnot, and we're at 1.17 for 2019. And I did not do a calculation for 2020 because we are not completed with the year and I don't have those exact numbers.
Not worried about it. This is fine. Thank you.
So it shows we're in good shape.
Thanks, Brian. That was exactly what I wanted.
Great. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, the next step is hopefully in the next section, council will adopt the budget.
All right, thank you. So before I take questions, I do want to thank Mr. Carlton, Desiree, and Mike for all the hard work. We tease a lot about all the details, but I want you to know that we truly appreciate the transparency in these reports, and especially during audit time. I've got to tell you, the requests from the auditors are quite burdensome. And Brian's answering their emails late at night. They're asking things at the last minute, and he still managed to get this all done for us. So thank you all very much, Brian and your team, and we truly appreciate it. I know it's been quite stressful for you.
Thank you. Hey, and also don't forget that in the packet information is all the detailed information. So if you have questions on any of the detailed information, you know, by all means, call me or send me an email and we'll get you an answer.
And I can
Desiree and I have run through that in detail numerous times, and we're pretty confident that the numbers flow really well.
All right, thank you. So let's go through council members for any questions. We'll start with Mr. Bobbitt.
No questions.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions. Excellent job.
All right, Mr. Peterson?
No questions.
Ms. Nyhagen?
Thank you, Brian. No questions.
Ms. Selby?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
And Mr. Trope?
Again, well done, guys. Thank you for all your hard labor. No questions.
All right, thank you. If you do have any additional questions that come up, please use the button to raise your hand. All right, so if there's nothing further going, at this time, I will open the floor for public comment. And did anyone submit to speak?
Not for this public hearing, no.
Okay. All right, then again, let me see, please raise your hand. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move, Councilmember Trope.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Peterson.
Great, thank you very much. We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the ayes have it. The hearing is closed at 7:59. Lisa, did you get the time it was opened?
7:58, yes.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's move on to action items. Let's see, the first item is the 2021 fiscal budget, as Mr. Carlton just presented for public hearing. We're going to go through one more time for any questions, just in case. Mr. Bobbitt?
No questions.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions.
Ms. Nyhagen,
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby,
No questions.
Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
All right, and Mr. Trope.
No questions.
All right, wonderful. Okay, is there a motion? Mr. Trope,
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 20-025, setting the final budget for fiscal year 2021.
Second, Mrs. Nyhagen.
okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any other additional comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all your patience with us. And another year done. Okay, so let's move on. 5.3. The next item is the misuse of 911 emergency response system, and Chief Tamaris will present on this.
No. We have an administrative fees resolution first.
5.02.
I'm so sorry. See, that's why I need my little pen to mark off where I'm at. Okay, so the next item is administration fee resolution, and Ms. Cinnamon will present, and my apologies for passing right over you.
Oh, that's fine. There really isn't anything that changed from last time, except for my notes to make sure that I had all the changes in my notes. I can definitely go through it if you'd like to, but nothing has changed from last time. And the changes are listed there on the screen.
All right, so then we're going to go through council members for questions or comments, and we will begin. Mr. Bobbitt.
No questions. I think it was well presented last time.
Mr. Cleveland.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Peterson.
No questions.
Ms. Nyhagen.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby.
Questions, thank you.
Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
And Mr. Trope.
No question.
Great, thank you. Please use the button to raise your hand if you have any additional questions or comments. Otherwise, is there a motion? Mr. Cleveland.
I'll motion to authorize resolution number 20-051, adopting the updated city fees and charges for 2021.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Heather.
Okay, Ms. Sherman, thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, let's go to the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Desiree, appreciate it. And now, and he's on camera too now. Okay, so misuse of 911 emergency response system, and Chief Tamaris will present on that.
Evening, Council. As the last meeting, we talked about the misuse of 911. We thought it would be useful for RE to help with prosecution. Many cities have an ordinance to enforce the misuse of 911. Emergency response systems, misuse of 911 is calling or texting a message to 911 when no actual emergency or potential emergency exists, and when the caller or message sender does not have a good faith basis to contact 911.
All right, thank you. So we're going to go through the council for any questions or comments. Mr. Bobbitt.
No questions.
Mr. Cleveland.
No questions.
All right, Mr. Peterson.
No questions.
Ms. Nyhagen.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
All right, and Mr. Trope.
No question.
Great, thank you. Okay, please use the button to raise your hand if you do come up with additional questions or comments. Otherwise, let's go on to the vote. Is there a motion? Actually, is there a motion? Mr. Peterson.
I'd move to adopt ordinance number 20-026, adding chapter 8.05, misuse of the 911 emergency management system to the College Place municipal code.
Thank you.
Second, Councilmember Jerry.
Great, we have a first and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, seeing none, now it's time to vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you very much, Chief. Next item is a resolution declaring official city events for 2021, and Ms. Neisel will be presenting.
Okay, so we're looking at this very optimistically, as you can see here, but the main reason for having all of these potential events listed is by having them listed in a resolution as declared as official city events, it allows the city to expend funds in order to support them or put them on. So some of these events are actually initiated by other organizations, but in order for the city to sponsor it or use time or funds in any way, then we need to have it included in our official events. So we are optimistic that hopefully a great number of these will actually take place next year. And so we want to make sure that we can help with it in whatever way we can, as far as funding and personnel time goes.
All right, love it. I love an optimistic schedule, so thank you. Let's go through council for any questions or comments regarding the schedule. Mr. Bobbitt?
Yeah, I see an item, Garrison Creek cleanup. I've never heard of that before.
Yes, that started when Rob Ensley was here. It's part of our stormwater requirements for our stormwater permit that we do an event, and it's been coordinated with the Lions Club, and they get volunteers and they go down and they work on cleanup in Lions Park of the Garrison Creek area. So they get in the creek and they pull out the weeds and make sure it's all properly the natural environment that it's supposed to be.
Okay, thank you.
And let me tell you, it's not during summertime for them either. Okay, so Cleveland.
No specific questions, but I just want to comment how beneficial I think having these events and having staff work on this stuff is for our identity, and how much of a difference I think it's made for the city in the last few years. So thank you so much to those that work on it and those that have the vision for it.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
No questions.
Okay, Ms. Nyhagen?
Yes, Mike Denny is writing a book about this 75th anniversary of College Place. And I think it would be nice when the book comes out to invite him to a council meeting to tell us about it.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Ms. Selby?
I'm absolutely in favor of this. One thing that I would suggest, because you guys are so creative, that we might want to think about in the future is that it always seems like there's a big dead time between like New Year's and spring, where like nothing happens after, half the holidays of the year in November and December, and then suddenly there's nothing. So I don't know what it would look like, but some sort of like February, March kind of event might be nice.
I believe that is potentially something that they're working on with the neighborhood engagement and outreach program that Mike and the Whitman Fellow are working on.
Nice, thank you.
All right, Ms. Sherman.
I don't have any questions, but I do appreciate that we're still doing events instead of having more news that things are canceled. So thank you all for adapting everything and making it fun still.
Good.
All right, and Mr. Trope?
Just one quick comment, building on Melody's comment earlier. My birthday's in March, so you can start shopping now, and I think it'd be a fine city event to have. I know
A birthday celebration.
Bet we could get some good grant funding for
calendars
that.
now. I don't have tremendous gift needs, but thoughtful is all I request.
Personal.
We'll keep that in mind.
I'm sure you will.
I think I'd favor a Melody Selby Day myself. No offense.
Taken.
Okay. So before we take a vote, I also do want to thank the staff for this past week. Did you all see the fireworks and the Christmas parade that went on? The lights outside look beautiful down on the avenue. It's quite fun. And let me tell you, we've gotten a great response. Lots of emails, lots of comments, all compliments. Facebook was just covered with them about people that were very happy about the event. It was fun. And I want to thank all the staff that volunteered that came out on that cold day. And it wasn't easy, but it was fun, and the kids loved it. I know here on my street, kids were coming out and waiting and waving to Santa. They just couldn't be any more thrilled. So thank you all for that event. It was quick thinking at the last minute, and you were successful. So thank you on that. Okay, if there's any other discussion or question, please use the button to raise your hand. Otherwise, let's see if there's a motion. Can I have a motion? Okay, Mr. Trope.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 20-052 to declare officially community events for fiscal year 2021.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the modification to the Economic Development, Tourism and Events Commission Code, which has been postponed until next meeting. So that's not next.
Correct.
So
As
that's
the first item in the administrative reports as well. Sorry.
okay, got you. Okay, then let's move on to the administrative reports. We've got the draft Green Tank Irrigation District Consolidation Study, which also has been postponed until next meeting. Let's see. Oh, okay. Ms. Cinnamon will present the ER&R allocation procedure and policy.
Okay, let's see here. Which screen am I on? Okay, so this came about because the auditors requested that we update our financial policy to include this procedure and allocation policy for the ER&R allocation that we do quarterly. They also requested that we include meetings with meals policy and a payroll allocation policy. So the first two will be presented tonight. The payroll allocation needs just a little bit more work, but we plan on presenting these as administrative reports and then hopefully taking them to the finance committee. So that way we can really look into them and make sure that they are the way that we need them to be, and then bringing them back to council for action. So this is the policy that Sarah created before she left, I believe to satisfy the auditors, but now they want it approved by council. So this is our current policy and procedure. And I will just go through it at a glance really quick. So that way I don't take up too much of your time. So on a quarterly basis, we do this ER&R allocation, which allocates the funds that utilize the ER&R department to the correct funds. The expenditures are tracked by job numbers in bias and other offline spreadsheets from the ER&R department, which is a one-man department. And they're allocated across funds according to a blended percentage of the fuel costs for each fund and the total tracked fuel and job costs over each quarter. These percentages are then applied to the following quarterly expenses, which is the operating supplies, small tools and equipment, maintenance and repair. And then the fuel is solely allocated according to the percentages of fuel used by the funds in the departments for that quarter. And then the remaining unallocated expenditures are distributed as overhead. So there are 6 main steps that are done to complete the process, and I will give a brief overview of each step. So step 1 is getting the list of all the vehicles that Jeff Goodson worked on in the shop for the quarter. He tracks this on a spreadsheet. He has each day listed out and what vehicles he works on each day. Each vehicle is assigned a job number in bias, and that is tracked to a specific department. And then the totals are calculated into percentages and broke down by department. So this is the spreadsheet for the parts of the spreadsheet for step 1. The percentage of the summary information up here gets put into this quarterly actual, which reallocates to the different funds, and it doesn't allocate to ER&R because it spreads across all other departments. And then step 2, we run a budget report from bias for the streets fund, and this is saved as a PDF. And then we get the following numbers for each of these sub-departments here. And then those numbers go into the main spreadsheet that shows the breakdown for the street fund department for the actual expenses. So this is the report that we run from bias. And bias is very limited on what it can produce. So that's why there's so many different steps and so many different components to this to be able to get everything that we need to allocate this correctly. So these numbers here are then input into the main spreadsheet down here to allocate the costs for the street department. And then step 3, we export the expenses for the quarter that have a job code associated with them. And usually it's just operating supplies and repairs and maintenance. There's a pre-formatted spreadsheet that splits all the job costs or all the costs by job code or vehicle code and associates them with the correct department by fund and by BAR's account number. And that is this first snippet of the spreadsheet here. So all of the costs by totals by the departments get put here, and then that information gets put into the spreadsheet, the main spreadsheet here under column 3, which is the actual expenditures that are associated with the vehicles. And then in step 4, the ER fuel report tracks the fuel used by each vehicle. So that's an offline spreadsheet that Jeff keeps track of. And the total actual expenses for the purchases of fuel is then allocated to each department based on which department and which vehicles from which departments use the fuel. The costs are added to the main spreadsheet. So Jeff keeps track of the diesel usage and the unleaded usage. We track how much it cost for that quarter and then allocate it to each department based on what vehicle used the fuel. And then this information, cost by department, gets put into the main spreadsheet as step 4 under the actual fuel used by the department. And then step 5, we use the same spreadsheet that we do for step 3. the information by the BARS account is entered into the main spreadsheet to calculate expenses. The fuel is calculated in step 6, which gives the actual expenses for the chart of accounts. This is a necessary step to validate that all costs have been accounted for. So the same spreadsheet here, now we take this total by BARS and we put it into step 5 in the spreadsheet, and all of these percentages and everything help do the blended percentage for the big allocation. And then in step 6, getting all the information for the actual costs from bias and entering them into the spreadsheet is step 6. This step is where all the costs are allocated to the blended percentage that calculate from steps 1 through 5. So I can show you the spreadsheet, but it all calculates here. So all of the actual costs go here, and then it's allocated to the different funds and spread across. And then the overhead is the remaining amount that goes down here. And then from there, we get our final adjustment. So the quarterly adjustment is calculated by taking what was budgeted and what should be based on the allocation and adjusting the difference based on the fund and the BARS line. We have interfund transfers budgeted every year that we need to make sure are being allocated and adjusted quarterly. So finally, after all of that work, we come up with this adjustment. So this is what is budgeted by fund and by BARS line. And then we take what it is based on the allocation, and then we do the difference since these are already booked. So this is the spreadsheet. We have all of the different steps here that feed into this main one, and it gives us all of this information, and then finally this adjustment that we do quarterly. So I know that's a lot of information throwing at you. That's why we plan to present it to the Finance Committee so we can really sit down and talk about it. But we wanted to be moving forward with bringing this to council because that's what the auditors were asking us to do. So if anyone has any questions.
Okay, let's go for questions. Mr. Bobbitt?
No questions, a lot of information.
Sorry.
Mr. Cleveland?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
Well, I understand this is going to be coming, like you said, to the Finance Committee. It was the concern here, many times tedious was brought up. So we need to approve an official approach that the auditors like, or basically approve what we already have in place. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, they just want it to be approved by council so that way we are, it's in our financial policy and we're going by what we set by. This is a really tedious process because bias is so limited with what they can give us. So there are a lot of steps, but explaining it to them in an easier way, hopefully will make them see that this is kind of the only way we can do it. But I'm definitely up for suggestions in the Finance Committee. But yeah, I believe that they just wanted us to have it approved by council.
Okay, cool. Yeah, good. So for the discussions, maybe as we learn more about this, some way to slim, yeah, obviously to make this more, just slim it down and make it more functional. Yeah, would be desirable. Yeah.
For you and me both.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Nyhagen?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby?
This is more a comment that you might want to think about as you go into the Finance Committee, because I used to be on the Finance Committee, and my vague recollection is that when we did a bunch of stuff for the auditors last time, we actually talked about stuff like this and decided that they were more procedures that were administrative that didn't need to be approved by the council. So what it sounds like to me is that the auditors now are asking us to sort of go lower in the organization as far as what the city council is approving. And I'll be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with that because we are not supposed to be messing with administrative stuff. So So I don't know if there's, something that we can do as policy that says quarterly we will make an adjustment and that's our policy, or if the auditors are going to insist that we approve the entire procedure. So that's my concern.
Good point. Thank you.
I'll follow up with the auditors on that point.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
And Mr. Trope.
I guess following on with Melody again, not about my birthday this time. This seemed procedural enough that a committee like the Finance Committee should be able to review the processes, if not Brian. So it would be interesting to hear what the auditors say. I don't see how this requires counsel. It's way too deep in my opinion.
I think we can push back a bit. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, no, I agree with the comments. I guess the point was being made though, that this process, as complicated as it is, as you were trying to explain it to the auditors, it was frustrating them perhaps, or they were trying to understand the process. And so then really, is it a question of trying to streamline it more than you're correct, versus trying to bring this to the council? So yeah, we could take a look at that.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Selby?
Okay. You can see me or you can hear me. You can't have both. No, sorry. Just another recollection to go along with that is I think we may have approved policies related to this, not all in one policy. For example, we approved the ER&R fund at one point, and we approved how it would get spread out at another point and so forth. So if we kind of pull together the policies that go into that procedure, that might make the auditors more comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Brian and I are both newer, so I tried to look back to see if this was ever approved by council, this policy and procedure, and I couldn't find that, but that's a very good point. And yeah, we'll follow up with the auditors on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add in, Daisha and I did talk about this allocation method, and she does a good job at completing it, and it is not too onerous for her to do it. It looks complicated, but she does a great job at getting it done, and it does allocate it in a reasonable basis. We can try to make it more simple, but challenges with that because of the components and the requirement. Don't forget that Fund 500 is called an internal service fund, and it must be allocated out. So we're required to do the allocation. Is there a simpler way? Well, that's something we can discuss at the Finance Committee. Because I'm for it if we can come up with something.
Okay, Ms. Selby.
Well, and one thing that I kind of want to just clarify is there's making the procedure simpler, which I'm all for and we should do, but there's also what level do we approve as council? And I think we need to make sure we're sure which question we're working on at any particular time.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the auditors. I'm talking to them on a daily basis.
Are there any?
You wanted a new best friend.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say best friends, but they're talking. All right. Any other discussion items, questions, comments for either Desiree or Brian? All right. So then we're going to move on to the next item. And Mr. Carlton's going to present the meals with meetings policy.
Again, this was brought up in the 2018 audit report, which 2018 seems like a long time ago, but they just completed that audit in February of this year. So unfortunately, we're just getting to these points now. But one of the things they did find is there was some receipts that were that would look like meals in relation to purchasing meals without any detail or anything associated with it. So they wanted us to implement a meals with meeting policy and procedure that will get included with our financial policies. Can you open up the PDF, Lisa? So this one falls directly in line with our financial policies, and basically setting a structure for what is allowable for the city to pay for any meals and that includes light snacks and beverages. There is comments in there that state that it's not including non-alcoholic beverages. I used the MRSC website, and I grabbed from a number of different cities that have these policies in place. So they are out there. So this is to establish policies and procedures related to employee expenses incurred while conducting city business. In general, policy of the city to pay for certain expenses incurred by employees while in a non-travel status. That is while conducting city business within the city college place. It states that the city shall pay only if activities are of a public purpose, involve specific city business, and expenses are incurred by or for individuals directly involved with the city business being conducted. So I'm not going to read through every single line. You can go through, and again, this one's going to be brought up with the finance committee, so we can also review it. It's basically allows for some meals to be paid by the city. A good example is well, when we were meeting in person, was the monthly, I'm just blanking on the name of it. The council meeting.
Workshops.
The workshop, thank you, Lisa. So that is accounted for in this policy and procedure that allows the city to pay for that certain type of activity. If there's a training class or something that has, it gives requirements of if it's of a short duration or a long duration, who's attending the meeting. It says if it's intergovernmental and it's related to business or training, then it goes over a meal period that the city will be allowed to purchase a meal. Again, I saw it flash by there. This does not include alcoholic beverages, which some people don't like, but also, if you're hosting certain things, if there's volunteers included, certain events, like if there's an emergency and there's a group of people in working on the emergency, that it covers paying for meals associated with that. It gives some examples at the end to clarify what the position is. Basically, what we're saying is that the city is allowed to purchase meals for business activity under certain circumstances. So if you get a chance or have read through it and have questions, by all means ask. I'm not going to read it out in detail. But again, this will go to the finance committee and we'll go through it in detail and then bring it back to council in the early part of the new year.
All right, thank you. Let's go through council for any questions or comments. Mr. Bobbitt?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Cleveland?
This feels a little lengthy for what it is, and policy is supposed to address a problem that exists. Would you be able to say what problem the auditors are trying to address with this policy exactly? A potential fraud from overspending?
No, it states that it's a rare occurrence that meals are provided for city business. And they're wanting a policy to state if it's allowed, what is the level that it's allowed.
For what purpose? Ultimately, what is the purpose of the policy?
To explain when the situation is that the city's allowed to provide refreshments or food for any sort of business meeting or training or anything.
I think
So it's
that they
stating
were-
that you can't, we don't pay for cake for employees' birthdays, or, it gets into that level of stuff that we're not allowed to use the city money for those activities.
I think that they were initially looking at a receipt for one of the wellness luncheons that we
It was.
provided, and they were just wanting a policy to go along with that. They weren't questioning the event or the amount or anything. They were just wanting a policy to go along with it. And so I don't necessarily think that we have this policy in place. And so they were wanting that done.
All right. I guess no further questions.
Therefore, I think Mr. Rickard might submit his resignation since there's no birthday cake. Okay, Mr. Peterson.
No, I look forward to we can go through this. Yeah, no questions at this time. Thanks.
Ms. Nyhagen?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions, but we can still have cake at Mr. Trope's birthday, and John can come to that, right? As long as we pay for it.
That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Okay, perfect. Oh, sorry about
I don't want John to be upset. I have no questions either.
All right, thank you. You're going to let John on your float with you, huh?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're going to go that far, I didn't really anticipate a float. That might be a little too much.
Yeah, and if we want to simplify it, and we can do that at the finance committee level. Maybe it's simplified. This was just the first pass at it, so we can work with it.
Is there any other comments or questions before we move on?
No.
Okay, so Mr. Rickard, you are going to present the banner code amendment proposal.
Sorry, I had myself muted. There we go. So last year we implemented the banner code, and we've utilized it a few times. Both the high schools for their graduating classes. You recall they had their graduating classes up on the banners, and we charged for that and covered our expenses on the installation cost as per our fee resolution, and they were more than grateful to pay that and be able to do that. And doing so, I think we kind of drew some attention to ourselves, because in the past we've had nothing on there but our own city events. So we've had a couple of requests, and I apologize, I can't remember what the first one was, but the most recent one is from the Children's Home Society. They have their annual fundraiser is in February, and normally they would hold a fundraising event at the Marcus Whitman, and for obvious reasons they won't be doing that this year. It's their largest fundraiser, and it's an important event for them. So they are requesting that they be allowed to advertise their fundraising campaign, which is the Sweethearts for Kids event, through the month of February. And the way the banner ordinance is written, we would have to say no to that because they're not located physically within the city of College Place. We don't sponsor the event. The city doesn't sponsor it. And of course, they're not, one of our schools, and it's not a city event. So I think we're going to see more requests like this. I don't think we would be overwhelmed with it, but there are a lot of good organizations out there, nonprofits, that they usually have one big event every year. And I think this is an opportunity for them to spread the word. And I, for one, would like to be able to allow these nonprofits to advertise their special events on our utility, our light poles. So I'm just asking for basically, permission to move forward. If there's not support for it, then we wouldn't. So that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Okay, I do have a question. Would this only apply to nonprofits?
I would limit it to nonprofits so that we don't want to create a system where we're advertising for businesses for their special events. It's for nonprofits, so they would have to qualify under the nonprofit rules under the state of Washington. And of course, we would also have to look at the other nonprofits if we're going to open it up to Umatilla County as well.
Okay, yeah, there's some thoughts with that. Okay, so let's go to council members for any questions or comments, and we'll start with Mr. Bobbitt.
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Cleveland,
No questions.
Mr. Peterson.
Well, yeah, I'm a little, I wouldn't say hesitant, but this was approved by the city councilor. I'm reading it back in 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
So to change this, would this have to go back to the council, correct?
Correct. It's codified, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, not for profits is a wide swath. That could be plays that are being put on, at this, sites. To just say not for profit could be a very wide funnel in some cases, but I guess it would depend on how we would word it as far as community benefit or something like that, I guess, if that's not in there already, perhaps. But yeah, anyway, look forward to see what we come up with on that.
And maybe I could work with Ree on some language that would kind of narrow it down, but still not violate any sort of, laws out there if we're opening it up to one group and, excluding another. I want to be careful about that.
No, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nyhagen?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Selby?
I just have a couple comments. I think it's a good idea to open it up a little bit wider than just College Place. I would suggest that geographically, it's basically the valley, like we do for the farmers market. And then I agree with Lauren that and I've seen language before. If I remember where it is, I'll shoot it to you. But there is language, that's for community benefit or something like that. And so it's not just any nonprofit out there. Because Lauren's right. He and I could set up a nonprofit to provide birthday cakes for city staff.
That would be perfect. I'd be on board with that. We did open it up to the way I would propose it would be Walla Walla Valley, which would include, of course, Walla Walla County, Columbia County, and Umatilla County. That seems to be the trend of, what our region is. So.
Okay, Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
Mr. Trope?
No questions.
I have some trepidation, just kind of, I'd like to see what it's going to look like. I don't want them to become advertising billboards kinds of things. So I just want to make sure that whatever language we use, we're very careful on that, of what community benefit is. And, I don't want to be advertising night or, kind of things. So let's, I'd love to see what you're going to come up with on that. So thank you.
Okay. Well, and we would also keep in mind that, we have a limited number of banners available, roughly 100 that are available outside of the university district. And then, we have our own events that we would have to prioritize as well. And that would, continue to be the main priority. So, and then we also have to, factor in availability of staffing time, and Public Works is, whether, the Walla Walla, the way they handle theirs, the Downtown Foundation does the installation and manages the whole scheduling of everything. So.
Sure. Councilmember Selby, you had your hand raised?
Yes, you just triggered me to remember the other thing I meant to say, which is, I think what would really work best is if we have a policy, but then it also has to go through like a committee, like our Parks and Rec committee or something, that, looks at the what we need to do is basically say, these are the dates we have available every year, and get applications, and then they would go through the stack and say yes or no based on the policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way the current policy is written right now, it goes through my office, and I review them for, appropriateness. And if I would have any questions, I would take it further up the chain of command, probably to Mike, and then Ree at this point. I would be hesitant to involve a committee in determining. I don't have any problem taking it to a committee to determine, to kind of massage what the final language ends up being, but it could become quite burdensome to administer if I have to, go take applications before a committee.
Well,
that would be my preference.
Well, and just to let you know what I'm thinking, and we don't necessarily have to end up this way, but I was thinking two things. One, make it so that people have to apply, and there's only once a year that you can do it. So you're not having them come in all the time. And then two, giving you some cover, because if we're opening it up to more groups and you have to pick, that puts you right out at the bleeding edge. So as you work through this, just think about that.
Okay.
Ms. Sherman?
I was going to say, for downtown, or I guess not downtown Walla Walla, but that banner that goes in on 2nd Avenue, that banner process is managed by Pacific Power, just because they do the installation. So that might be something else to look at too, and they do have applications due by a certain date. And I think by January, they have their whole year lined out. And so their process might be something to take into consideration.
Good suggestion.
That is good.
Okay, any other questions, comments, tips? Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I do want to let you all know that I'm sure you got your email from our auditor yesterday inviting you to a meeting, less than 12 hours or something later. But Brian and I did attend the exit interview today, and obviously we don't have the final report, but I do want to just let you know that we did attend that, and I'm not concerned about anything that might come back.
Mayor, it
Yes.
wasn't the exit meeting.
Oh,
It was the pre-meeting to the audit to discuss
right.
what they're going to look at.
That's right.
There'll be an exit meeting in 2 or
After.
3 weeks.
January. Yes. Okay. So so she invited everybody, and Heather did respond asking her why it was so short notice. And she just they're kind of bogged down as well. Okay, so thank you. Informational reports. So there are monthly reports in your package for your review. Please, if you haven't already done so, please review those informational reports if you have any chance to. We're gonna move on to closing items. So, did I see Mr. Peterson raise his hand?
No, just a little twitch.
Okay. All right, so closing items. One last item of business would be to cancel the last meeting of December. Is there any discussion on this? If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. All right, so do we have a motion regarding canceling the last meeting of December? Mr. Trope?
I can make a motion to cancel the last meeting in December of the city council.
Okay, Councilmember Selby?
I second. I was going to make the motion, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
He's just faster than I am.
Okay, are there any additional discussions? Anybody that want to say no, no, no? We need to have our meeting. All right, it's not. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. It's unanimous. The motion is passed. Is there any other business for the good of the order? All right, I don't see any. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move. This is Councilmember Selby.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And stay safe, stay healthy.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. That.
Okay, somebody second. Okay, if there's no objection, the meeting is adjourned at 8:51 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.